Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampadhritavigraham Ishadaram Parameshamidhyam Ramakrishnan Shirasa Namamaha.
Namaste everyone. Welcome to our study of the Vedanta lectures of Swami Vivekananda. We have been reading or studying this lecture called the Vedanta, delivered in 1897 in Lahore. Wonderful, bit long lecture. And in the last class, we were here somewhere studying the challenge posed by Buddhism and the Vedanta's response to it. And all right, so somewhere we're here. I think we completed this. So we'll go to the next lesson. Yeah. So in this lesson or this part of it, let me make this bigger. In this lesson, we journey into the heart of the Advaita Vedanta's non-dual vision, where the boundaries between the self and the universe dissolve. Means the microcosm and the macrocosm. Swami Vivekananda explains the profound concepts of Maya, the illusion of separateness created by space, time, and causation, and Brahman, the ultimate unchanging reality that underlies all existence. We explore the role of the witness, Shakshi, and the pure consciousness that observes all experiences without any attachment. Through these teachings, we are invited to look beyond appearances, recognize the unity behind diversity, and realize our true nature as one with that infinite being, Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. The self within me is the same as the universal self at the spiritual dimension. So let's see. Can Brahman be known? So people say God realization. Can we know it? Of course, that we have to understand what's the definition of knowing in the first place. So let's read this and then we'll explain. Can we know this Brahman? Brahman is the universal consciousness, the ocean behind all the waves. We are like individuals, different waves of different shapes, sizes, and colors, but behind all of them is the ocean. And the water in the wave and the ocean is the same H2O. The difference is that the ocean is limitless while the wave is finite. That finiteness is in the body, defined by what is enclosed within the skin, finiteness of the senses. You can hear only so much, see so much, all that. Finiteness of in the capacity of the mind, of power of comprehension and feeling. Finiteness in the sense of our identification of who I am. I am one being. This is my individuality, personality, as separate from the wider. And this identification with this body-mind complex, my I amness, is what Maya is. But behind that is the ocean. Can we know this ocean? So Swamiji says, I have told you of the painting of the infinite in the Samhita. Samhita is the earlier portions of the Vedas. Here we shall find another side shown, the infinite internal. So the Western approach, the Greek and others, they went and explored the external world. And of course, they designed beautiful architecture and paintings and all that. They caught the sublime in the external world. where our Vedic teachers went to explore the inner world, the world of the spirit, and they too discovered wonderful things, truths, and that is what the Upanishads and the Gita and the Vedas are. That was the infinite of the muscles. Here we shall find the infinite of thoughts, the mental. There, the infinite was attempted to be painted in a language positive. This is this, this is this. Here, the language failed, and the attempt has been to paint it in the language of negative because it is so vast. And the language, the conventional language that we use in our everyday transactions in the world, is not fit for that purpose. So they use the language of neti, neti, not this, not this. So is it the body? Not this. Is it the mind? Not that. Ultimately, you are left with the reality beyond language, but it is experienced. Okay. So here is this universe, and even admitting that it is Brahman, can we know it? No, no. You must understand this one thing again very clearly. Again and again, this doubt will come to you. If this is Brahman, how can we know it? By what can be the Nava be known? Kasminnu bhagavo vijñate sarvam idam vijñatam. That's the question, a very fundamental question a student goes and asks his teacher. He is very highly accomplished. He has mastered so many fields of knowledge. But he finds that in spite of that, he knows so little. And he poses and says, this way of knowing everything little by little, in this way, life is too short and I'll never know everything. Is there a smarter way to know by which I can know everything? Or I can know the knower itself. Who is knowing this? The object out there is known. For example, I see a tree that is known. I'm the observer. I'm the knower. So everything, when I objectify, it can become an object of my knowledge. But how can I know myself? So when we say self-knowledge, self-realization, is it a knowledge? Can I know myself in that sense? So how can the knower be known? Okay, the eyes see everything. Can they see themselves? No, they cannot. The very fact of knowledge is a degradation. So what we call knowledge, in Sanskrit, it's called vritti jnana. That means knowledge is formed when I, as the knower, interact with the known, and when the two comes together, that combination of that energy in our mind space creates a ripple, a disturbance in the mind space, which is called a vritti. And it is that I know. And of course, then it's colored by our own previous knowing or samskaras, or the way the mind has been conditioned due to our upbringing, our culture, our experiences, all that colors that. So Swamiji also says, the outside world is unknown, X. The mind reads it. So X plus the mind is what we know. Not the thing itself, but as it is colored. So you'll see, it always happens. 5 people are looking at the same thing. Each one has got a different experience, and each one sees differently, and the likes and everything.
उसने मेरे 25 साल के पेशेवर जीवन को पूरी तरह से बदला। मैं से फिलीपींस के मनीला के लिए काम करने वाले
The
विमान से शुरू
mic is
यह
on. Yeah. So how can the Nava be known? The eyes can see everything. Can they see themselves? They cannot. The very fact of knowledge is a degradation. Children of the Aryans, you must remember this, for herein lies a big story. All the Western temptations that come to you have their metaphysical basis on that one thing. There is nothing higher than self-knowledge, sense knowledge. So all of our physical material sciences is based on what we see through the microscope, through the telescope, through various devices there, but ultimately it enters into us through our senses. And the senses themselves are limited. It can only see so much, it can hear so much, and therefore we devise various types of technology and tools by which we enhance the powers of the senses. So, like a microscope With the help of a microscope, we can see something very small. With a telescope, we can see something very far away. A television, we can see some things happening very at a great distance. A phone, we can talk to somebody who is thousands of kilometers away. But these are just devices designed to enhance overcome the limitations of the senses. Ultimately, it still goes through the senses. They all come in the category called Apara Vidya, lower knowledge, sensory knowledge. In the East, we say in our Vedas that this knowledge is lower, Apara Vidya, than the thing in itself. That means senses do not reveal to you the truth about things. They hide, distort that knowledge that you see. For example, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you raise your physical right hand, the image is raising its left hand. But if you do not understand the science of it, you think that, I was raising my left hand. The representation is not always correct. What the senses see is not the truth, but limited condition brings about a limitation on that. So the Eastern Vedic teachers were very clear right from the beginning that the sense knowledge on which we depend every day on our conventional transactional world is not a suitable tool to experience the Atmans. In the East, we say in our Vedas that this knowledge is lava and the thing itself, then the thing itself, because it's a limitation. When you want to know a thing, it immediately becomes limited by the mind. That means the conditioning of the mind colors it. It's like a glass we have. If you look at something but through a green glass, then the thing becomes colored by the greenness of the lens. So our minds are conditioned by our views, our experiences, our prejudices, our likes and dislikes. And when we pass a judgment and say, oh, somebody is like that, what we should be saying is, somebody appears to me like that as it is, he or she is conditioned by my mind. That mind, your own mind is giving a lot of coloring to it. Most of the time we do not acknowledge that part and we are just very judgmental. That person is very bad. I'm not 100% sure about it. No, that person is seen to be bad because somebody may be telling all the wrong things about that person. Like this, we color everything else. They say, refer to that instance of the oyster making a pearl and see how knowledge is limitation. Gathering a thing, bringing it into consciousness, and not knowing it as a whole. This is true about all knowledge, means sensory knowledge, vritti jnana. That is the apara vidya. And what we call in this modern day, so that's how from the moment we are born, we open our eyes and we begin to soak in the world of names and forms, and our learning begins in a language we develop and we get educated by the environment and our parents and our culture. Then you go through your primary school and your secondary school, your university, and you become a professional. Everything is happening in this lava apara vidya space. Of course, you can learn so many things, so much information, and you can become very knowledgeable, not intelligent necessarily, very knowledgeable, very well informed. But here comes a computer that says, I can load the knowledge of thousands of people over many generations or lifetimes and process it at a super high speed. And that is what is called your artificial intelligence. And it does better than a human being. And that's a real challenge in this age. But here's the thing, this AI always can operate in this lower realm, lower apara vidya realm only. A human being has got another capacity of knowing things in a different way, which is called Paravidya. And that is something that we have been talking in our satsangs and retreats and all that. That requires a little bit deeper explanation. But just know that they are two. And sensory knowledge belongs to Aparavidya. It is a limitation. It's not a good enough tool to know or experience ourselves. A new tool has to be opened up. That is called buddhi, or the intellect or intelligence. And that tool operates in a different way. It's more of the heart. The first one is of the intellect. The intellect knows. I'm the knower, that's the known. When they come together, it forms a knowledge. It's the difference between me and that thing that I know, not the thing itself. That's like we flying in this sky with two planes at the same speed in the same direction. When you look out in the window and say that is not moving relative to me. Likewise, I know something that's relative to me. When I feel the heat, it's relative to me, my body temperature. Uh, so we are it's a relative knowledge, not absolute knowledge. The self cannot be known in that way. There's another faculty within us which is nurtured through japa and meditation, which opens this other capacity to resonate where I become one with it. Samadhi. Dhi is your frequency. My frequency, the frequency of my mind is equal to the frequency of the object that I'm studying. And when the two are at the same frequency, samadhi, that is perfect concentration. Then what I experience myself at that moment, that is that thing, because the two have become one. This is the Para Vidya method of knowing things. And this is how, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Maharishi Patanjali teaches that sophisticated or superior method of knowing, which the ancient sages discovered, by which they did not devise all these powerful telescopes and microscopes. Whatever they wanted to know, they could bring their mind to the same frequency and thus discover the secrets of the whole universe around. And that's how they made all these great discoveries long time back. That capacity to change your mind, to change the frequency of your mind to the object of your studying, is all what meditation is all about. So that it starts with dharana, dhyana, samadhi, and that is all beautifully explained in the Yoga Sutras. Let's come back to this. Okay, this is true about all the knowledge, and can it be so less so about the infinite? Can you thus limit him who is the substance of all knowledge? He who is the sakshi, the witness, without whom you cannot have any knowledge. He who has no qualities, who is the witness of the whole universe, the witness of our souls. How can you know him? So that is the question. By what means can you bind him? Everything, this whole universe is him. Everything, this whole universe is such a false attempt. So this realization, this particular sentence, when we come to that conclusion that all my attempt to know the infinite through finite means, it's in vain. It's going to end up in failure. I will get some hints, little bit here and there, and by the time we become old and the mind becomes, loses its capacity, and then we go and all that is lost. When we come to that deep understanding, then we will pause and stop perceiving that the knowledge of the self, the Atman, through physical, material, or sensory tools. Then we will say, find out how else we can know. And spirituality really starts there. But the realization comes that it's impossible. So when Yamraj offered Nachiketa the tools, okay, I'll teach you, give you all these powers and things, but don't ask about the Atman. He was testing him. Does this young boy, has he come to that understanding? Is he intelligent? Buddhi is there to discriminate the limitations of the senses, where he's giving, enjoy this world, live as long as you want, become the emperor of this whole wide planet on the earth. There is tempting him. And the boy comes back and he replies in a beautiful way, Dhruvam adhruveshu na prarthayante. Yeah. That means the eternal, the infinite, cannot be grasped by some finite means. The absolute cannot, the permanent cannot be grasped by some transitory thing. You are offering me some transitory things, and I'm not going to settle for it. You please keep all this to yourself. You offered me all these elephants and chariots and horses there, all these dances and all this singing and everything, entertainment. Please keep that to yourself. I'm not interested that I want to know what this Atman is. What happens to a person when he dies? Is there something in him that is immortal that does not die? I know the body will die, the mind also goes. Some people say something remains, others says everything becomes null and void. You tell me. And it's amazing that, sort of ironical, that Nachiketa goes and asks the question about immortality to death itself. This infinite Atman is, as it were, trying to see his own face. And all, from the lowest animal to the highest of gods, are like so many mirrors to reflect himself in. So, from the other perspective, the Atman says, okay, let me see whether I can see myself in this nature. So he picks something, and that could be a little mineral, or a little plant, or a little insect, in different life forms until he comes to the monkeys and the dolphins and human being. And as the forms are getting better and better, more evolved, in those forms, the manifestation of that consciousness is more and more and more. So it says, what can I do? After the human form, maybe I take a God form in which there's a greater manifestation. God means not the universal, infinite God, means all these deities, the special, separate manifestations. So ultimately, he says, oh, none of the finite can ever express the infinite. And it gives up that vain attempt. Why? I am what I am. Why do I need to see myself in the mirror of this Prakriti? And when it loses all interest, then Prakriti lets him go and says, and it abides in its own glory. It doesn't need to know because I experience myself. Why do I need to look at myself in the mirror when I'm the being himself? So in that way, Swamiji explains that this Atman is taking like so many mirrors to reflect himself in, and he's taking up still others, finding them insufficient until in the human body he comes to know that it is the finite of the finite. All is finite. There cannot be any expression of the infinite in the finite. That is the glory of a human being. That by that time, that intelligence has matured. Well, not in everyone. Many still will be looking for happiness and peace and joy and try to live in this world for long, whatever is there. But for the more evolved ones, they come to that buddhi has opened, that intelligence has opened, and they sum up the whole thing, and they know that I'll not waste my time in perceiving these little things there because I will never find them there. And he doesn't want to make a compromise. Then comes the retrograde march. Turn around. It's not there. Not in the pravritti, not in the senses. Where is it? Backwards, inwards. So that is called nivritti. Turning inwards. And that is what is called renunciation or vairagya. Spirituality actually starts with this return journey. It is like you come to this understanding that the happiness that we are seeking, the knowledge that we are seeking, the eternal life that we are seeking, the peace that we are seeking, the beauty, freedom that we are seeking cannot be given to us by nature. And when I give up that vain attempt to seek the infinite infinite and I turn back because there's nowhere else to look. I've looked around everywhere else. Now the only one place that's remaining is within me. That U-turn that we make in our pursuit is called renunciation, is called vairagya. And yeah, and so it's intellectual, it's a knowledge thing, it's an awakening. It's not just leaving your home and a few material possessions and think that now he has renounced the world or whatever is there. That is a very, very gross understanding of vairagya. Vairagya comes through a maturity of a wisdom that comes through experiences of many lifetimes, an awakening of a buddhi where one understands the mistake one has been making in pursuit of knowledge. There's nothing wrong with that pursuit. There's nothing wrong with the pursuit of infinite happiness. It's just that we realize that where we are seeking and how we are seeking is not going to work. So we turn around and continue that search and still seek for happiness, but we're seeking within. Still seek for that knowledge, but we're seeking within. And that is the path of nivritti. And, and if you understand, actually, that is what spiritual life is all about. It is like, sometimes I give an example, on a hot day, you're driving out in the hot desert of Australia, and it's very, dry, and you're thirsty, and it's burning, and suddenly you see in front of you a beautiful oasis. You can see so many trees and a lake or something. You say, oh, let me go and have a dip there, have a swim there, cool myself. So you're driving, and after half an hour, you check out and you say that that lake still seems to be, the 10 kilometers. And you drive for another 2 hours, and it still appears to be another 10 kilometers, same 10 kilometers. And then it flashes to you. This is the realization. There's no lake, it's only a mirage. And with that realization, you step off the gas pedal. You don't have that same enthusiasm to drive, because knowledge has got this power to dispel the ignorance. In ignorance, I was seeing the mirage, but the light of knowledge has come, and I understand there's no lake there. It's only a mirage. Then what to do? Okay, you need to turn back, but maybe you can't turn back immediately. They're saying U-turn not allowed. So you have your duties and responsibilities and family and children to look after. So you can't give up immediately, but you're forever on the lookout for making the turn. And at some point, the roundabout or something comes, and you turn backward. That turning around is vairagya. And the return journey is the path of nivritti. We are back to the base, going within home. There's nothing out there. Everything is within us. So, back from the senses. Back. Do not go to the senses is the watchword of Vairagya. This is the watchword of all morality. And this is the watchword of all well-being. We talk about well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being, emotional well-being. The being that we are seeking for, where peace is within us, not outside us. For you must remember that with us, the universe begins in tapasya, in renunciation. And as you go back and forth, all the forms are being manifested before you, and they are left aside one after the other until you remain what you really are. This is moksha. This is liberation. So it's not that you will bring in the Atman and plant it in your heart. Wherever we are the Atman, here and now, it is just that freedom of the Atman has been covered by the limitations of the body, and the ego, and the mind, and the senses. These limitations, when they're removed, the Atman is there. So it is called Nitya Siddha, means always attained. But ignorance has covered it. And spiritual life means is to remove this ignorance. To remove this ignorance, and you are what you are. So in that sense, Vedanta or the Vedantic teachings are very, very powerful. It's very, very positive. It does not say, oh, we are sinners and we will be consigned to hell and this and that. And it's very negative. Your self-esteem, your self-value shrinks down to something very miserable. You feel very bad about yourself. You're repentant and blah, blah. Those are the sort of principles in other religion. Vedanta says, doesn't matter how many bad things you have done, that do not in any way take away your divine nature. All that karma only has put some dust on the mirror of your mind. Remove that dust, and you are that blissful being, the infinite, eternal, immortal Atman, here and now. That is very, very powerful. Immediately, your self-confidence, your faith in yourself, your self-esteem goes many notches higher, because you are the immortal being. You said, all right, that is wonderful. What do I do to experience that? And that's where the sadhana part comes. Use these techniques of japa and meditation to bring about chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind, working out, diluting or negating or cancelling the prarabdha, the karmas from previous lifetime, getting the mind reconditioned, so to say, and in the clear spotless mirror of the mind, one perceives the beautiful being that we are. And that is what spiritual life is all about. So that is moksha. That's freedom. Now we are not limited by the limitations of the senses or the body or the mind. The bubble has burst, and the space that was inside the bubble has become one with the universal space. And you say, I am that infinite being, Aham Brahmasmi. Or the wave has merged into the ocean, and suddenly it experiences the infinite breadth and the depth of the ocean, which no wave can express. It can experience, but it cannot put in the language of to describe things. So, how's it going? Good. Any questions there? All right.
All good.
Good. So, what is this? Now we are going back to that Atman nature. Okay, what is this Atman? And here, I would like you to not just intellectualize it, but put yourself in the shoes of a realized person. Because you are the Atman. But if you say, if I were a realized person here and now, what would be my experience like? Imagine I am omniscient, I am all knowing. There's not an iota of ignorance in my mind. Imagine I am Akhand Ananda. Akhand Satchidananda means infinite existence, knowledge, bliss. So if I have infinite, I'm infinitely blissful. There's no trace of any misery or suffering in me. I'm infinite existence. Beyond time, beyond change, beyond space, there's no deathless, I'm eternal, immortal. What would that be? What would that experience be like? Wow, and then you remind yourself, that is my true nature. And here, I'm attached to this body, limited mind, limited senses. This does not befit me. This continuing in the like building a cocoon, a silkworm dies in there. That is not the way I want life to go on. If immortality is my divine birthright, I should claim it here and now. When that idea gets hold of you, then the idea is this idea of self-realization, then other things will automatically fade away. The other things are looking bright, just like on a dark night, you look in the sky, in the countryside where there's no city lights and things, you see these beautiful stars, they're all looking very nice and pretty and bright. And then the moon rises over the horizon. It's a full moon, and your whole attention goes to the moon. And by its light, the stars now look a bit dim and diffused, and you're enchanted by the moon. And then the sun rises in the morning. Of course, you don't see the stars at all. They are there, but they have just disappeared. You don't see them. The moon also has faded away. What exists shines in all its glory is the beautiful sun. So likewise, in the horizon of your mind, if this desire for self-knowledge rises, and the nature and the qualities and the attributes of this Atman, and you dwell about that, you think about that, you hear about that, you read about that, and you say, ultimately, I am that being, that infinite being. And when your whole attention becomes focused on that sun of self-knowledge that should rise in my mind, then your interest in all these little petty things of this world, the stars and the moons, will automatically drop away. You don't have to make an effort. So renunciation is not forcefully giving something up. You just focus your mind on the bigger thing, the other things will fade away. So it's a very positive type of thing. It's very liberating. It's not a loss. It's actually a great gain type of thing. Okay, so with that idea, we try to contemplate on this, the glory of this Atman. What is it? It's nature, the bliss, the witness in the bliss. How the seer alone truly enjoys. So this idea has to be understood. How to know the knower? The knower cannot be known. Why? Because if it is known, it will not be the knower anymore. See, it cannot be the known and the knower at the same time. But if you make the knower known, then it's not a knower anymore. If you look at your eyes in the mirror, the reflection is no more your eyes, but something else. It looks like your eyes, but it's only a reflection. If you look at yourself in the mirror, at your whole body, and nowadays, of course, you have all these fancy mirrors that can make you appear tall and, healthy, not fat, healthy. That's the contribution made by the mirror. And so, if the mirror cracks, it doesn't mean that I have cracked, you see. But when we become identified, the mirror here is nature. The mirror is the body, the mirror is the mind, and all the changes that are happening in the body mind, we attribute to ourselves. You see, and you say, oh, I was born on this day. And this is my gender, this is my weight, this is my height, this is my profession, this is the state of my mind. I'm happy, I'm not happy, I know, I don't know. All attributes of the reflection we are attributing ourselves, and that is what is called ignorance. Take the mirror away, you are what you are. So, what we call knowing is looking in that mirror. And the mirror will only give you a distortion. It'll never be, it's an image, it's a reflection, it's not the thing itself, type of thing. So, if you look at your eyes in the mirror, the reflection is no more your eyes, it's something else, only a reflection. Then, if this soul, this universal infinite being, which you are, is only a witness, what good is it? It cannot live and move about and enjoy the world as we do because it's just a witness. It's not part of the thing. The world is part of the mirror, Jagat, changing, coming, staying, going. And we are happy with all the changes we are enjoying. People cannot understand how the witness and can enjoy. We want to be inside the game. We don't want to be the spectator. That's more fun, people say, until they get punched around. Okay, it's all right if you're watching a football match as a witness, and you said, okay, let me get into the field and I want to play there. All right, if you've got skills, you can enjoy kicking the ball around. But then another game could be there, there's a boxing match, and you say, hey, go inside and you can enjoy being a boxer. When you get punched up, then you don't say, I'm enjoying it anymore. So, oh, they say you Hindus have become quiescent, means quiet and inactive, and you don't do anything outside there. You're just busy in your contemplation and things while other nations are marching. Look at what wonderful progress they're making. They're making all this wonderful scientific discoveries and inventions and conquering the oceans and the space and planets and all that. For a long time, that's how the Western science in the Western world was praised, and they looked down upon the Hindus, okay, because they focus too much on the internal world, not on the outside. Okay, which is not good also because you require food, clothing, and shelter also. Not everyone is ready for the highest goal. So now the change is happening. So they say, you Hindus have become quiescent and good for nothing through this doctrine that you are the witness. First of all, it is only the witness that can enjoy. If there's a wrestling match, who enjoys it? Those who take part in it or those who are looking on it, the outsiders. The more and more you are the witness of anything in life, the more you can enjoy it, the more you enjoy it. And this is Ananda, the bliss. And therefore, infinite bliss can only be yours when you have become the witness of this universe. So little enjoyments, little witnesses are there. You're watching a match, things are there, limitations of the senses. But imagine you have that cosmic eye that can witness anything and everything throughout this whole, not our solar system, not our Earth only, or our solar system, or galaxy, or thousands of galaxies, this whole universe, from the biggest to the smallest. And you are aware of it. You are present of it by being inside it, being immanent it. That is an idea of omniscience. That means you are self-aware of the totality and the intricate, the inner workings of everything. Because the self pervades everything, the Atman pervades everything. It is transcendental as well as immanent in everything. And so that bliss, the knowledge that comes out of that, the joy that comes out is far superior to any sensory knowledge, because we have become the witness. Then alone you are the Mukta Purusha, you are the free soul. It is the witness alone that can work without any desire, without any idea of going to heaven, without any idea of blame, without any idea of praise. The witness alone enjoys and none else. As opposite the witness is the doer. He jumps into the thing and he says, I do this. And when the results come, if they're good, he takes credit for it. And if there's a failure, then he thinks he's failing. And therefore his happiness and misery is dependent on the outcomes of their activities. And therefore that's how ordinary illiterate or ignorant soul behaves. And Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ahamkara vivodatma karta aham iti manyate. A deluded person. Aham, vimudatma. Karta aham, I am the doer. Iti manyate. Thus he thinks. Why does he think that? Because the sense of ahamkar is there. I am the doer, the doership, and the enjoyership. Kartritva abhiman, bhoktritva abhiman. Two types of ego comes there. One, I am the doer. And when people praise me, I puff off like a frog. And when people criticize, then you become deflated like a balloon. Basically, it's slavery to people's words. There's no freedom in such a thing. On the other hand, when people detach themselves and say, I'm a witness, let things happen. I'm not going to create, I'm the detached person. In my presence, everything happens, but I'm not involved in it. That is Karma Yoga, non-attachment is taught in there. That's how we have what is called Shakshi Bhava, witness nature. All right, so that is the nature of the witness. And if I want to have self-realization, I should start behaving like the self. So in the midst of activities, now and then pause and say, if I were a realized person, how would I see this? Okay, I will be a witness. I will not have any doership. So I'll detach myself to this. Things happen on the screen, the movie is rolling forth, the heroes and villains, drama is there, shooting, killing, and everything is there. I'm the witness, the spectator. I'm enjoying the movie. But if you forget that and you become identified with one of the heroes and the villains or whatever is there, now you are totally engrossed in the movie. Of course, you enjoy in one way, but if the outcome in the movie is not very good, you also feel very bad about it. See, this world is a movie, and that movie is being cast on a canvas. Of course, when the movie is over, the little projector is switched off. Then you see there was no blood on the screen. It appeared to be, but basically the whole thing was just a play of light in various colors that was creating so many images. And you saw that happening right in the beginning when the projector was switched on. But after a while, you forgot that it is a movie, and when become involved in it, and everything is very real. This world is nothing like that. It is exactly like that. And there's nothing real there. It's just a play of energy of various on this canvas of Maya. What is that canvas? That is called Desha Kala Nimitta. Desh is space, time is Kala, Nimitta is causation. So Maya is that. Maya is that which Miyate iti Maya in Sanskrit. That which makes the immeasurable measurable. That makes the infinite appear to be finite. That which makes the limitless, the Purana, the whole, as something that is finite. So a good example is, look, a beam of white light, when passing through a prism, a triangular prism, disperses itself into an infinite number of colors. So on one side is the same thing, but it all appears as colorless. It appears as colorless, but it contains all the colors in there anyway. But on the other side, they are all dispersed into a whole spectrum of colors. What is bringing about that change? There is this prism, and it has three sides. What are the three sides? One is space, the other is time, the third is causation. And you see, your experience of this depends where you are. Now imagine a beam of light passing through a prism falls on a wall, and on that wall, one is an ant. And if you ask the ant, what color do you see? Well, it'll tell you depending on where the ant is sitting on the wall. It's on one end might say this is red, another one sitting in another place, this is blue and green and all those things. Different ends are telling different things. Each one is experiencing the same thing, but in their limited way, not the whole of it. So long you're on the other side of the prism. If somebody could jump on the opposite side of the prism, then he says, it's all colorless. But everything is present there in a non-manifest state, Purna, that is the white light. So our experience in this world is relative to where we are. Our experience in this world is relative to where we are. The same building to four people who are standing facing the four worlds appears different, yet it is the same building, but each one sees that building relative to their position. They don't see the whole thing. And in so many ways, it's taught in the scriptures, it is taught about a person who went to a tree and then came back. They said, animal they are, and it's green. Another said, no, it's blue. Another says yellow. But eventually they all went and asked somebody who lives under the tree, like a yogi, and said, I know it's a chameleon. It changes its color. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes green. So all of you are right, but not 100% right, fully right. I know this animal very well. It appears all these colors, and sometimes it is colorless. So that's a fuller knowledge of things. So what brings about these things? I am the Atman, eternal immortal. How can I be caught up in this name and form? Nama Rupa. So in this world, everything, when it's grasped by the mind, assumes these two attributes or qualities, Nama and Rupa, name and a form. And that is how it appears on the right side of the prism, so to say, the differentiated. On the left hand side, they're all unity, one, and then it becomes differentiated. The prism brings about the differentiation. What is that like? Oh, all the lokas from Brahmaloka right down to this physical plane. So Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, Maha, Janat, Tapa, Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, like the seven colors in the spectrum, are the seven colors, the seven planes of consciousness. We, like that ant, are in one bandwidth. We are born in this physical world, we function through the senses, we just see one type of thing. And because all of us are in the same frequency, more or less, we see all alike. And gods, they dwell in another frequency. And they experience that same infinite being in a different way. There's more happiness, more knowledge, and all those type of things. We are all experiencing the same reality in a limited way. So that is this Maya. This concept is very difficult to understand. It's not an intellectual thing. Good references are necessary, but if we can conceptualize it, I think this whole lecture series started with Shimain asking, after reading some lectures of Swami Vivekananda on the concept of Maya, and we thought we'll at least get a bigger picture of Vedanta before we go to that. But I did mention that wonderful conversation. Many times I refer to that of one of Swami Vivekananda's disciples who read all those lectures and not being able to understand went to him and asked him, what is Maya? But Swamiji did not only explain to him, he started by giving an intellectual explanation of it, but actually he gave him an experience where he literally lifted his mind from the gross physical sensory world through the mind and merged it into that universal consciousness. As he went up there, all the names and forms disappeared. There was an ocean of consciousness as an experience. And when it came down to the lower planes, the whole world of names and forms reappeared. That is something about Maya. Maya is that which makes the formless appear with form, makes the nameless appear with names, make the infinite appear as finite. That which makes something measurable. Because if it's infinite, you cannot measure it. You cannot measure space. If I say, hey, what's the distance? You say, tell me the two things between which I can measure. If you just tell me one thing, that idea of distance is not there. Once you define the two boundaries, then I can tell you what's the measurement. So that's our sense of time, space. Space is a sense of measurement between two objects, two things. Somewhere has to be there. Then we say that's a space inside. Some boundary has to be there. And like the space of a house, well, the walls have to be there. The space inside the balloon has to be the boundary. Then we can talk about the volume of the thing. So that's about space. Time is a measure between two events. One thing and then something changes. It could be between a tick and a tock, and that's, you say that's 1 second. It could be something like a sunrise and sunset, and another sunrise, and that's, you say this is 1 day. Or the like the lunar cycles and the annual cycles. But at the end of the day, two changes happen, and the measure of the interval between the two is what we call time. And the causation is about that one thing changing into the other. Okay. So with that background, let us look at this. Coming to the moral aspect, there is one thing between the metaphysical and the moral aspect of Advaitism. It is a theory of Maya. Every one of these points in the Advaita system requires years to understand and months to explain. Therefore, you will excuse me if I only touch them en passant, means just a little bit. This theory of Maya has been the most difficult thing to understand in all ages. Let me tell you in a few words that it is surely not a theory. Some people say it's a theory. No, it's not a theory. It's the combination of three ideas: Desh, Kala, Nimitta. Space, time, and causation. And this space and time and the cause have been further reduced to Nama and Rupa, name and form. This is how everything around is constituted. This is how the mind grasps anything. That's why the child opens his eyes and sees a form, Rupa, and asks the mother, what is that? The mother says, that's an apple, Nama. And he files that form of the apple with the word apple, and he says, that's a knowledge. And we keeps on building that, and he's becoming more and more knowledgeable. A for apple, B for this, like this. We are learning like that. And then we, through various sciences, we're just building that name and Rupa, more information, all that is happening there. So, and that is our conception of ourselves also. I have a form and I have a name. Another person has got a form and has got a name. You look at that image or photo and the name pops up because the two are interrelated. Nama and Rupa are interrelated. So this is how this differentiated world is constructed. Not outside, in our mind space. And to recondition or decondition the mind, we use that same what you call the principle by which is constructed to deconstruct it. Okay. The knot that has been tied in one way can be untied by going in the opposite direction. So that's where the sadhana part comes, So everything, it's not only thoughts, nama and rupa outside a tree, but the forms that I see in my own mind through my memory and contemplation and imagination and visualization, they are also inside, internal nama and rupa. When I want to neutralize that internal nama rupa, which is so many thoughts that are there, I use that same principle that everything is nama and rupa, but instead of focusing on incessantly jumping from one nama rupa to another, which is jumping from one thought to the other, I use one name and one form and keep my mind in that loop of it. That name that one chooses to anchor is normally in a spiritual science a spiritual name, which is a mantra. And Rupa is that particular form, some divine name, some divine form. Japa is the repetition of the mantra. It's a conscious effort to keep the mind in that loop through repetition. And when you do that, anything when it's repeated again and again and again develops intensity, this 30th, we are going to have a spiritual retreat where we're going to discuss all these things for those who are initiated or want to be initiated, but who want to understand the nitty-gritty of all this in detail. But just to give you a trail of what we're doing there. So once we understand the way the mind is constructed, the mind is constructed with thoughts. Thoughts are an internal representation of something that's outside there, and that is made of nama and rupa. Thousands of names and forms are constantly jumping in and out, and your mind hops from one to the other, and that's where the restlessness or the scattered nature of the mind is there. It loses its intensity. The light is diffused in all directions. That's not good. The secret of everything in life is to intensify that energy. Just like light is coming into me, the first thing I do is using my eye lens, I intensify it and focus in my retina. Or sound coming, I intensify it and focus it on my eardrum. So that intensity is the secret. When something happens again and again successively, we call it a current. So one electron passes, and another electron follows, and another follows, and they follow in rapid movement. We call it an electric current. When water is falling from one bottle to another, one drop follows, then there's a gap of space, and another drop happens. I tilt the bottle a little bit more, the gaps become a little smaller and smaller. The water current becomes more, and ultimately it follows without any break. But I can push it even with great intensity, as happens in a water blaster, jet. And we know that a very high velocity of water can be used to cut steel, timber, concrete. The power comes with that current thing. Internally also, that power comes when we can make the thoughts into a current. That means one thought repeats itself. It repeats itself. And then when that energy is directed into that becomes a very powerful mind or thought. So whenever that attention is directed to whatever it wants, it just penetrates, just like the water cuts through steel and concrete. This can also cut through ignorance. But the principle is there. And if we learn how to manage that mind, then all that power of the mind is harnessed. But if it's scattered, dispersed in all directions, then it doesn't illumine much. It's a dull mind. We call it a dull mind. When it's sharp, focused, when it's a sharp mind. Now, suppose there's a wave in the ocean. The wave is distinct from the ocean only in its form and name. And this form and this name cannot have any separate existence from the wave. Give the example, okay? So imagine it's absolutely peaceful, not a single ripple in the pond, and then some disturbance comes and a wave appears. So wave is a form that arises on the surface of the pond or lake. What defines it? It's that particular form that has now certain amount of water in it, and it's traveling in this way. So that name and form, you might call that wave, give it a name. This is wave X, wave Y, wave Z, and identify it with that form. Okay. So name and form are always associated with that name, with that wave. So let's read this again. Suppose there is a wave in the ocean. The wave is distinct from the ocean only in its form and name, and this form and name cannot have any separate existence from the wave. They exist only in the wave. If the wave subsides, the name and form also subsides. The wave may subside, but the same amount of water remains. What happens to it? It has become merged in the ocean. Even if the name and form that were on the wave vanishes forever. That means the substance doesn't get destroyed. It just assumes some qualities. The qualities appear and disappear, but the substance remains. So when the wave disappears, what happened? The water has merged into the water has each H2O molecule is still there, but it has become united with that ocean now. So this Maya is what makes the difference between me and you, between all animals and men, between gods and men. So Maya is what brings about differentiation, limitation. In our everyday world, is what is called our separation. Separation means this is me and the others are there. It's people one to another, or this is my community or that community, this is my country, that's your country, or whatever it is there. This is my party, your party, this is my faith or your faith. Anything that brings about or intensifies and makes more for this differentiation, amplifies that, then we know that we are playing in the realm of Maya. Okay? And so this is how Maya creates all this Leela. If everything merges into the one, how can you play? If all the white, all the colors of the light merge and become united in the white light, there's no fun, no play, there's no differentiation. The movie requires all these colors. In fact, it is this Maya that causes the Atman to be caught, as it were. Mark this phrase, as it were, Iva in Sanskrit. Means as it were, it really is not caught, but appears to be caught. Just like a rope appears to be a snake in the dim light of dusk, but did it really become a snake? No, it appears. So Atman appears to be caught, as it were. So what catches it? It is this Maya. It is this Maya that causes the Atman to be caught, as it were, in so many millions of beings, and these are distinguishable only through the names and forms. Plants, animals, insects, humans, gods, all these are so many names and forms differentiated by Maya of that indifferent, undifferentiated Atman or Brahman. If you leave it alone, let name and form all go, all this variety vanishes forever. And you are what you really are. And this is Maya. Okay? It's interesting how Swamiji explains it. You have to listen, read, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, chew it, meditate on it to get what is the core idea that Swamiji is trying to get across to us with using these analogies here. With that, we have come to our 1 hour today. Any quick questions? No, all good. Everyone seems to be understanding Maya very nice. So please read this, contemplate on that, and if you have any questions, you can text me in our WhatsApp group so I can take that up before we start, proceed from here. And let us conclude this with our usual prayer. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tassat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.